Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is David Imamura. I'm the chair of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us for our fourth listening session, this time for the Mid-Hudson Valley and the Capital Region. As chair of the commission, but more important today, as a proud Westchester resident, I want to thank you all so much for joining us. First, I want to acknowledge my fellow commissioners who are here today. We have Commissioners Ivelisse Cuevas Molina, Commissioner Willis Stevens, Commissioner John Conway, and Commissioner Elaine Fraser. And my belief is that today we have the most commissioners of any hearing where we are actually from the region. So we'll be hearing from Commissioner Stevens and Commissioner Fraser later. So in total, we have 5 commissioners on this hearing. Second, I want to thank the men and women behind the curtain who are making this work from a technological perspective and for all of their work for the commission. Co-Executive Director Karen Blatt, Deputy Co-Executive Director Isis McIntosh Green, Director of Public Engagement Asia Badi, Assistant Director of Engagement Miranda Goodwin Robb, Data Manager Jonathan Rivas, Co-Executive Director Douglas Brakel, Deputy Co-Executive Director Kevin Murphy, Assistant Director of Engagement Danielle Futia, and Data Manager David Schaefer. Today, we are embarking on New York's first ever public redistricting process, where average New Yorkers have the opportunity to weigh in on their district lines. Just as a reminder for our calendar, we are continuing these public input sessions across the state until mid-August. On August 16th, 2 weeks from today, the Census Bureau will release New York's redistricting census data, which we will use to draft our initial set of lines. We will release those lines by September 15th. 1 month later, we will then have another round of sessions asking for the public's views on our proposed set of lines. We will then take the public's input, modify the district lines as necessary, and submit our proposal to the legislature in January. Please note, for those of you who were not able to sign up for today's session, we'll be having a catch-all session for the entire state in mid-August prior to our beginning to draw the lines. So if you did not have time to prepare for today, please join us then. In addition, whether or not you speak before the commission, we actively encourage you to submit written materials to us. Only so much can be said in 3 minutes. So please feel free to submit additional materials, be it letters, maps, photos of communities, whatever you think best. Some logistical points. Each speaker will be allocated 3 minutes. We have a timer on the Zoom which will indicate how much time every person has remaining. We will mute speakers if they exceed their time. Commissioners will not be asking questions. All of this session, as well as all written materials submitted to the commission, will be posted on our website at nyirc.gov. As we've discussed, we are asking the public to provide information on 2 things before we start putting pen to paper and drawing lines. First, we are asking for information on your communities as they relate to redistricting. Tell us about your neighborhood, your religious group, your school district, your village, and why as a community you should be kept together. This is what is known in redistricting circles as a community of interest, and those are what we're interested in today. Second, we are also asking for your input on how present districts can be improved. Again, I want to thank everyone involved, especially members of the public, for making their voices heard today. This is the first time that everyday New Yorkers will be able to provide input on the lines. And I think I speak for all of my fellow commissioners when I say we intend to make the most of it. This process will only work because of your help. So thank you so much for joining us. Commissioners Fraser, Stevens, would you like to speak? Yep, Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very happy and pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased to see so much participation from the Mid-Hudson region and the Capital District. As a lifelong resident of New York State, and most of that life being spent in the Mid-Hudson region, this area is very important to me. I served as a member of the state legislature for a number of years, representing Putnam, Westchester, and Dutchess counties. And And I know how important this process is and how historic what we're going through right now is to the state of New York and to governing in general. So we are here to listen to your comments, listen to your ideas. This is a very open and transparent process, which is something that is relatively new to New York State. And I'm pleased to be part of it. Thank you very much, Chairman, and I certainly appreciate my fellow commissioners being here to listen to what's going on in our region.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fraser, would you like to speak? And you are on mute, Elaine. You're kind of coming in and out, Elaine.
Okay, I'm in now. Everybody, and for my neighbors and so much for participating. So meaningful for all of us. And I'm going to talk. And I'm going to say welcome and tell you. We look forward to hearing from everybody.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners Conway and Cuevas-Molina, would you like to speak?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cuevas-Molina, okay. All right, well, I think we are ready to get started. So Miranda, who is our first person?
First, we have Rifki Feier. Rifki, you'll be invited to speak. Yeah.
Hi, Rifki, how are you?
Hi, good. Okay, now I see I'm connected. Thank you.
So please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rifki Feier. I'm a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, as well as an owner of a small business located in Muncie in the town of Ramapo in Rockland County that employs 20 people. I'm a community activist who has served on the East Ramapo Central School District Superintendent Circle for approximately 4 years. I'm a former board member of JCC Rockland, and I'm currently a board member of the Rockland Federation. I have been a member of Rockland Federation's Community Relations Council for 4 years and have a close working relationship with the ADL and the Simon Wiesenthal Center on issues related to anti-Semitism in our community and beyond. I have advocated for our community, both in Albany and Washington, and I'm proud to speak up on its behalf and be a voice for our needs. However, I am here today speaking as an individual. I very much appreciate, as an everyday New Yorker, the opportunity to speak to you today regarding the redistricting of our communities. I have been living in Rockland County for most of my life, and have seen the Jewish Orthodox community spread out from a small area in Spring Valley and Muncie to Wesley Hills, New Hempstead, Viola, Chestnut Ridge, New Square, Pomona, New City, and Garnerville. These towns and villages are currently divided among 3 assembly districts, 96, 97, and 98, effectively diluting our voice and our common interests. With the sharp rise in anti-Semitism, it is more important than ever to have representation in Albany who can passionately advocate for our safety, our schools, and our unique way of life. We feel strongly that the only way this can be accomplished is by having a unified district represented by an individual who truly understands the world of Judaism and Orthodoxy and all its nuances. Although not all branches of Orthodoxy are the same, and our community is diverse, there is much that we have in common. We eat only kosher food. We strictly observe the Sabbath. We attend synagogues that are in walking distance since we do not drive on the Sabbath. And we mostly send our children to private Jewish schools, also known as yeshivas, with dual curriculums so that our children can learn both religious and secular subjects. As our numbers in Rockland have grown, we have also created at great expense and effort an infrastructure that serves both our Orthodox community as well as our non-Orthodox and non-Jewish neighbors. This infrastructure includes myriad charitable organizations that provide food packages to those in need, a volunteer ambulance corps, volunteers who are available to assist in any emergency, volunteers who visit the sick and provide for their needs, and more. We have also added much to the local economy through the numerous businesses that we opened, including retail shops, grocery stores, restaurants, and service industries. We humbly urge this commission to hear our request to keep our community unified so that our interests can be heard and our community preserved. And we thank you for this opportunity to express our need to have effective and fair representation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us. Theo Shiro, you are next. How are you today?
Good. How are you all?
All right. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to all of the commissioners and staff. Good afternoon. My name is Theo Shiro, Co-Executive Director at Make the Road New York, the largest grassroots organization of immigrants and working class people of color in New York. We operate community centers in Westchester, Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. Our 24,000 members build the power of our communities to achieve dignity and justice through organizing, policy innovation, transformative education, and survival services. I submit this testimony to share the organization's perspective on redistricting. Increasing civic engagement is a critical part of our work. We conduct outreach continuously to ensure community members' voices are heard. And in last year's census, we led in-person, phone, and digital outreach that reached hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. Our members participated in that process to make certain that our communities receive both adequate resources and representation. Now, to achieve such representation, we need a redistricting process that is transparent, fair, and reflects the geographic realities and growing numbers of our communities. While we'll have more to say when the final census numbers are released, today we present several priorities for this process. Our priorities are rooted in federal standards, widely accepted best practices, and our experience in the state's last round of redistricting. Particularly in the last state Senate map, communities of color were effectively disenfranchised, both through cracking in Westchester and through high population deviations that concentrated more voters in New York City communities with high Black, Brown, and immigrant populations. Our members and allies organized to stop these injustices. Our recommendations focus on ensuring the principle of one person, one vote, that's respected, and that this body does not and we as a state do not engage in practices that disenfranchise people of color. Number one, we feel it's important to respect one person, one vote. Where immigrant Black and Brown communities have grown, the distribution and drawing of districts should reflect that. This body must respect best practice equal population standards and not concentrate higher numbers of voters into districts with high populations of color. No abusive line drawing. Avoid cracking and packing, which disenfranchise communities, as we saw in Westchester when state Senate map makers drew a line straight through White Plains and New Rochelle. Respect political subdivisions and communities of interest. We saw firsthand how White Plains and New Rochelle were sliced in half and other communities of color were manipulated for political reasons. Lines should respect other political boundaries and communities of interest. Compactness and contiguity, no partisan gerrymandering, and public participation is key, and there must be a robust process for public participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Theo, and thank you for your group's assistance with the census. Assemblyman Lawler, how are you today?
Doing well, thanks, David.
So please proceed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate the work that the commission is doing. I just wanted to come on and comment in support of that work and the need for a truly independent bipartisan commission. And it is my hope that your work goes on unimpeded by the legislature, and that you are able to draw maps that are fair, that do keep communities whole, do not seek to divide up municipalities, and keep in mind the historical nature of some of these districts and communities all throughout. And so I think it's critically important, the work that you're doing. I support the work that you're doing, and wanted to take this opportunity to say as much. I think as we move forward in New York State, this is the first time the commission is able to do this work after many decades of partisan map drawing. And it's my hope that you are able to produce these maps in a timely manner with the input of communities all throughout the state, and that we as legislators ultimately will have the opportunity to vote on the maps that you produce in an independent manner. And so that therefore, moving forward, New Yorkers have confidence in these maps and have confidence that they are not gerrymandered, but in fact are done in a way that respects all communities and seeks to keep them intact. So again, I thank you for this opportunity. I wish you well in the work that you are doing, and look forward to seeing the end result.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Really appreciate you joining us. We are joined by Commissioner Nesbitt, who I believe is joining us despite there being a power outage where he is. Commissioner, do you want to speak briefly or?
No, but the power is back on now, so.
Okay. I was going to say, Charlie, if the power is out, you're definitely excused from being here. Okay.
It was a little bit of brinksmanship.
Okay.
We're back on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Commissioner. Alan Stern, you are next to speak before the commission. Mr. Stern, you are on mute and have your video muted.
All right, is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, good. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input. My name is Alan Stern, and I am the chair of the Washington County Democratic Committee. As a resident of Washington County and a representative of the Democratic voters in the 21st Congressional District, I have an abiding interest in the work of this commission, and I wish today to offer the following comments and recommendation regarding the redistricting. The majority of my testimony will address our congressional district, but I want to note that we have concerns about our state legislative districts as well. We have 17 towns in Washington County, 8 are in AD 113, 6 in AD 114, and 2 in AD 107. In the Senate, 15 towns are in SD 45 and only 2 in SD 43. This results in a division of our representation that makes no sense. As to our congressional district, New York 21 is far too large, encompassing 12 counties and over 15,000 square miles. It's 150 miles or about a 4-hour drive from the town of Easton in southern Washington County to Messina in the north of St. Lawrence County. The Adirondack Park presents a physical barrier to commercial and employment interaction with our northern neighbors. The resulting disconnect raises a serious question about the effectiveness of our configuration. A more functional districting would link Washington County with counties to which we are physically closer and connected by business, employment opportunities, travel and commuting routes, and other shared physical and cultural and political issues. We share and have much closer relationships with towns and cities in Warren, Saratoga, Rensselaer, and Albany counties than we do with those in St. Lawrence, Essex, Fulton, and the other northern counties in New York 21. It is illustrative of the natural relationships Washington County has with these more southern counties that this commission recognizes our county's connections and has grouped us in the Mid-Hudson and Capital Region rather than the North Country region. It is our recommendation that Washington County be appropriately placed in a congressional district as it has been in the past within our natural region. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you joining us. Andrea Kelly-Higgs, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony. My name is Andrea Kelly-Higgs, and I'm a resident of White Plains, New York. Mondaire Jones is my congressional representative. He was elected in 2020 to fill the seat previously held by Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who served in Congress for more than 30 years. The 17th district lies in the lower Hudson Valley of New York State and includes all of Rockland County and parts of central and northern Westchester County. I am an active member of the well-respected and well-recognized Westchester Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and my individual testimony is provided in support of communities who face disenfranchisement during periods of incarceration. As it relates to redistricting, prison gerrymandering is on my radar because there are at least 13 jails and prisons in Westchester County. According to the Vera Institute of Justice, among New York City and the 57 counties outside of the city, Westchester County had the 47th highest incarceration rate. In 2020, Westchester County's average daily jail population was 565. Its 2019 jail budget was over $130 million, and the cost to incarcerate one person for one night in 2019 was over $380. With redistricting, reallocating those financial resources to fund community-based alternative to incarceration programs is a viable option. Public and private studies provide ample evidence that incarcerated people typically maintain strong ties to their home communities, where they will return when released. They have minimal contact, if any, with the towns and cities surrounding their place of incarceration and its elected officials, who likely have not ever had the experience of visiting their constituents who happen to be incarcerated in their districts. My ask is that the Redistricting Commission remove the jail and prison populations from its base of data before redistricting to avoid voter dilution in the inmates' home communities, to avoid artificially inflating voter representation in communities with jails and prisons, and to consistently apportion legislative districts within Westchester County and the other 61 counties in New York on the basis of actual populations rather than prison populations, in compliance with the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, what remains of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, as well as Article 2, Section 4 of the New York State Constitution. And finally, when a determination is made regarding the mapping, please share with the public the applications, the software tools, and the data sources that the Redistricting Commission will use to draw the maps. Sharing the information will allow the public to create maps and talking points that are consistent with the IRC's sources, such as the census, the American Community Survey, and the county business patterns. Again, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Really appreciate you joining us. Stephen Elliott, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
All right, thank you so much for joining.
My name is Stephen Elliott, and I'm a resident of Albany County. I'm a political scientist and a former LAT4 staff member. I have also served as a redistricting expert on the partisan staff of both Republicans and Democrats in the Assembly. The Commission, like the task force before it, is the public face of redistricting in New York. As with the task force, the Commission serves to insulate the legislature from scrutiny. It's important to make this clear, since the legislature has the staff and resources to draw maps on its own, notwithstanding anything the Commission does. Up to this point, the Commission is focused on community of interest mapping. This can be a useful first step, but it can also divert attention and dissipate public energy. Taken in a raw form, community of interest maps are unworkable. They overlap and conflict, they often ignore other legal requirements, and they create a patchwork of areas outside their boundaries that cannot be fashioned into legal districts. All of this can lead to a kind of redistricting Darwinism where only large voter communities are heard. Community of interest districts are just one of the constraints you face. The public is largely uninformed about the others. The first and most important constraint, and the one that encompasses them all, is that it is not possible to maximize all legally mandated redistricting criteria at the same time. The rules often flatly contradict each other. The more rules, the harder it is to balance them. And as a result, redistricting plans can never be fair and neutral in all respects. The corollary is that every rule can either be used to promote fair districting or impede it. The plain fact, as any experienced gerrymanderer knows, is that the more rules, the easier it is to gerrymander. Your task should be to establish a hierarchy of legal requirements, inform the public about the trade-offs you envision, and show how you have used that hierarchy in your plans. Start by documenting the three parts of every rule: the law that establishes its legal basis, the data and technology that allow it to be applied, and the statistical and legal measures used to judge it. I understand that you might be reluctant to do this. It would add work in the short run, but it will also help you sort out your choices. You may find it reduces differences of opinion that are sure to arise among you. Lay it out. Create a roadmap through New York's convoluted and opaque requirements. It'll help prepare for the inevitable litigation to come, And you'll also be giving the public the tools to move beyond community of interest districting. The legislature will have its preferences, and you may hear of them. You may produce two sets of plans reflecting your partisan split. This need not be an admission of failure. The commission was designed to incorporate the legislature's interest. One way to redirect those calculations is to unmask the biases inherent in the process and in the results. It remains possible for you, within the constraints of your partisan allegiances, to improve an imperfect process. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate you joining us. Kathleen Nolan, how are you today?
Fine, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to offer testimony here. Thank you. I live in Shandaken in Ulster County, and I work in Woodstock and Kingston in Ulster County and in neighboring counties. I have just a couple of points to make. The first is that in Ulster County, my home county, we have 4 New York State senators in districts 39, 42, 46, and 51. And I've been told that that is actually unconstitutional. I also have 4 New York State assembly members, assembly districts and assembly members, districts 101, 102, 103, and 104. So in terms of community interest, I work with several nonprofits. I'm speaking for myself today, but I can say that in working for those nonprofits, I often will have to look up multiple different representatives from both the Assembly and the Senate to know who is going to be interested in a matter at hand. And sometimes it's all 8 just from Ulster County alone. That is not efficient from anybody's point of view. I've also been a local elected official. I was in the Ulster County legislature 4 years ago and am running again, hope to be in the legislature again. And in that setting as well, we have multiple representatives that we need to contact about any issue affecting Ulster County. My final point would be that I'm aware of computer software that can be used to draft what would be extremely compact geographic districts that conform to existing county and town boundaries. And I believe that geographic compactness is a high priority and perhaps a very valid starting point that could be potentially a consensus, kind of a unifying approach. So I encourage the commission to use the available technology to help with your very difficult job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate you joining us. Leslie, how are you today?
Okay, hi. I want to thank you for letting me speak about Ulster County. My name is Elizabeth Lee, and I am a voter in District 4 in New Paltz, which is part of the Legislative Senate District 42. I am a family nurse practitioner and healthcare provider in Ulster County. I have lived in Ulster County for 35 years and am a member of the Voter Reform Committee of Ulster Activists. Ulster County is a rural, agricultural, and recreational area with close proximity to New York City, which means it's easily accessible by affluent New Yorkers. My county and community's concerns are lack of affordable housing, lack of mental health service, and the fact that our county is divided into 4 legislative districts. This division prevents adequate representation of our voters' voices to implement change. You can find the statistical information about Ulster County and our concerns of lack of affordable housing and mental health services in the PowerPoint I submitted for your review. So I want to show you our legislative map. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Oh, God. Well, I want to show you our legislative map. You can see it on the here it is, that the towns of Ulster County have been divided into 4 legislative districts, as Kathleen Nolan had just said. And that is in District 39, 41, 42, 46, and 51. We are asking the commission to draw the district lines to represent Ulster County as a whole, so we can better speak to our need for affordable housing and mental health services as one cohesive voice in the Senate district. Thank you for your time, consideration, and having these public hearings about our concerns for redistricting.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate you joining us. And if you could deactivate sharing your screen. Okay, excellent. Village Trustee Fleisig, how are you today?
Very good, Commissioner Imamura. Thank you so much for both your service and giving me an opportunity to speak. I'll keep my comments brief. They really are in the context of they're a little bit different this time. I think, we are actually content with leaving our boundaries unchanged. And I do speak for the majority of the other trustees in this regard. We have much in common with the villages to the north of us. The rivers and bridges and valleys in our region have all historically encouraged the construction of north-south railways and roadways. And the river towns all react to many of the social and environmental issues in much the same way, and our economic interests are typically aligned. And for those reasons, we are a proud member of this community. However, we also have a strong and unique relationship with our more urban neighbors to the south, given that we're at the southern end of the river towns. And this relationship keeps us constantly reminded of the great diversity of viewpoints that exist within the larger metropolitan area of which we are a part. The mouth of the Sawmill River, for example, in Yonkers, just to the south of us, and that city has been a great force in the cleanup of that watershed, which borders the other side of our village and of all the river towns. As well, our emergency services have municipal aid agreements, not just to the north of us, but to the east and the south. As a community, we seek to build bridges in all directions, overcoming the geographical and man-made boundaries that separate the river towns from the rest of this region while still maintaining our identity. Representatives with a diverse constituency are encouraged to more creative compromise than stubborn intransigence. We believe that in our case, the district boundaries as they are set for Hastings-on-Hudson do more to bring a diversity of views to Albany and the halls of Congress, and we ask that you leave them, in our case, as they are drawn. And I'll yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Appreciate you joining us. Aaron Wieder, how are you today? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name just now. You are on mute, sorry.
Hi, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello, my name is Aaron Wieder. I am a Rockland County legislator, and I live in the village of Spring Valley, which is situated in the town of Ramapo. Thank you, commissioners, for your time, and more importantly, for listening to the concern of New Yorkers in this very important manner. In fact, drawing lines for election district is the first step and probably the most important step in any democratic. Speak to you specifically about the assembly districts in the town of Ramapo. In the last redistricting, the town of Ramapo was the only town in the entire state with a population of nearly 127,000 that was divided and splintered in 3 assembly districts and across county lines. Currently, the town of Ramapo is divided between the 96th, 97th, and 98th assembly district. These districts all have a very small portion of Ramapo. The majority of these districts represents other towns, and in the case of the 98th Assembly District, the majority of the district is in a different county altogether. Needless to say, none of these assembly members currently live in the town of Ramapo. That the residents of the town of Ramapo would tell you that for a decade, not only are they underrepresented, They are indeed not represented at all. There is literally no one to talk to in the state assembly. These residents are particularly hard hit because they comprised of Orthodox Jews, Haitian Americans, African Americans, and Latino Americans. Their commissioners, are they not entitled to fair representations? Sadly, when it comes to the town of Ramapo's assembly representation, it is anything but a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Their commissioners, you have a great opportunity to recommend, to right a wrong, to right an injustice. In fact, an injustice that not only affects Ramapo, because in the words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Indeed, you will make right not only for the town of Ramapo, for the entire state of New York. Thank you, commissioners, for listening. Thank you, David.
Thank you, legislator. Appreciate you joining us. Next, we have Peter Bernstein. How are you, Peter?
Good, thank you, David. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Peter Bernstein, and I'm a registered voter in the 17th U.S. Congressional District, living in the village of Irvington, town of Greenburgh. Thank you for your efforts to reset and improve voting districts and for inviting public comments. The current districting divides Greenburgh between CD 17 and CD 16. Irvington, Tarrytown, Elmsford, and much of Hartsdale are in CD 17, but Hastings-on-Hudson and Ardsley are in CD 16. My suggestion today is that all of the town of Greenburgh be included in CD 17. The truth is that residents are currently confused about what congressional district they live in. We are all represented by the Greenburgh Town Board and Supervisor, and we are all represented by one state assembly person in District 92. As our local Greenburgh municipalities grapple with high taxes, there are many opportunities for savings through shared services between the various local municipalities. On big ticket items like mitigating the impacts of climate change, improving infrastructure, and the high cost of public safety, it makes sense that all of Greenburgh be unified when interacting with federal representatives to activate federal agency assistance. In other areas, like recreation and cultural activities, our family has always viewed all of Greenburgh as our backyard. Our children took karate lessons in Hastings, attended theater workshops in Dobbs Ferry, and learned to swim at the Tarrytown Y. Our high school sports teams play each other, and we all attend outdoor concerts in our various parks. We also know how important an informed public is in the political process. We are lucky to have an excellent local weekly paper, the Rivertown's Enterprise. Their coverage, editorials, and letters to the editor inform the voters of Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, Ardsley, and Hastings. It is confusing, and I know for a fact that voters have gone into the voting booth expecting to vote for a candidate they learned about in the Enterprise, only to find out that they are not in that congressional district. In conclusion, it makes total sense for many reasons that all of Greenburgh be united into CD 17, as we are already a unified community in many ways, and the current districts confuse voters and is inefficient in interacting with our federal representatives and agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you joining us. Suzanne Kavik, how are you today?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. I'm Suzanne Kavik. I'm First Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Westchester, and I'm speaking on their behalf. We appreciate this opportunity to comment on the redistricting efforts that will soon take place for all the U.S. congressional districts and New York State Senate and Assembly districts. While the Westchester League recognizes the legal constraints involved in shaping legislative districts, we oppose partisan gerrymandering because it strips rights away from voters and splits communities. The results of this can be seen in several of Westchester County's districts, which variously include areas of Rockland, Putnam, Orange, Dutchess, and Bronx counties. Ensuring that communities of interest are not split especially resonates with the Westchester League at this time. As our letter of July 23rd, 2021 explained, we are vehemently opposed to being included in the IRC hearings Mid-Hudson region because Westchester County's commonality lay with the boroughs of New York City rather than the rural areas of our northern neighbors. The Westchester League on all levels is laser focused with the goal to combat gerrymandered districts which benefits politicians and political parties rather than citizens. Our request is for the IRC to think about the priorities of communities of interest so that elected representatives truly represent their constituency and work for them. Westchester County is a diverse county that offers much variety with many communities of interest that cross municipalities. Better maps would make fair communities. I have just a few examples, and my included written material has the maps, which make this probably a little bit more easy to visualize. For example, Larchmont, Mamaroneck are Long Island Sound Shore communities, and environmental issues relating to the Long Island Sound are especially important to them. The northern part of SD 37, AD 91, and 95% of CD 16 don't share those concerns to the same extent, but they're all grouped together. Another example, Ossining Town and Village in Westchester is a diverse community that faces economic and cultural challenges. Why would SD 38 be interested in that small community on the other side of the Hudson River? And yet they're all together. The city of White Plains, as has been mentioned earlier, is a city within Westchester County, yet it is divided into two Senate districts, 35 and 37. How can the interests and challenges be addressed when the city is divided? CD 17 is split down the middle by the Hudson River, which includes both Westchester and Rockland counties, and CD 18 comprises 4 counties, Westchester, Putnam, Orange, and Dutchess. So we really are concerned that mapping doesn't fairly meet those community needs. The Westchester League of Women Voters asks that the IRC focus upon the needs of community citizens by actively listening to them and not hold a political lens upon mapping. The people want their voices heard and expect those whom they've elected to represent them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Really appreciate you joining us. Julie, how are you today?
I am fine. Thank you so much for allowing me to join you. And good afternoon to everybody here who is listening. I am a new member of a grassroots agency, and I'm just trying to get my feet wet in kind of participating and increasing my awareness of some of these, of different legislation that is occurring and being worked on. So basically, I am attending this meeting as a learning experience, but also wanted very much to speak to concerns regarding, I understand the committee's meetings, committee's agenda is, I'm positive, in the best interest of the constituents that you're representing. But I am concerned about perhaps inadvertent gerrymandering because it is sometimes, as previous speakers before me have said, there are so many complexities, so many competing, conflicting laws, etc. And as a voter, as a regular voter and a citizen and a business owner, I am not part, I missed the Long Island meeting because Long Island meeting, I received an email in less than the 24-hour period, inviting me to the town hall meeting, but I didn't have enough time to register. So I decided to register with neighbors that I know of and that I've been very involved in your community. So even though I don't reside there, we vacation there very much and love your community. So I decided to participate in this meeting to say that I am very concerned about gerrymandering, and I do not want, will continue. I'm working with an organization that we're trying to address some other types of issues on Long Island, but we're going to be watching this New York State process and be involved because we don't want persons of color, persons of lower socioeconomic, different means to be somehow to be ostracized or be disenfranchised in this process. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you joining us. Bill Sartor, how are you today?
I'm good, David. How are you? Thank
How are you,
you.
Bill?
Nice to see you. Thank you for allowing me to participate, and thank you for all the commissioners and everyone joining in today for hearing testimony. I'm going to limit my remarks. I'm going to focus mostly on the 17th Congressional District, but of course, all of it is very important. I have a little bit of a unique perspective in that I've reached that point in life where I lived the first 28 years of my life in Nyack and Rockland County, and the most previous recent 28 years in Mount Kisco in Westchester County. And all of that has been predominantly in the same congressional district. I am the son of immigrants and proud Italian American. And in Mount Kisco in the last 20 years, I've watched the town change and grow rather extensively. Currently, as we are currently configured in a town of about 10,000 people, 45% of which is Hispanic, 20% of which is Italian, and the top three languages spoken are English, Spanish, and Italian. We have been, in terms of gerrymandering, we seem to be the favorite little piece that gets bounced around. We've been pushed north, south, east, and west. We've had in the most recent structure has probably seen the greatest amount of engagement, and not because of necessarily who the congressional person is, but just because of the amount of engagement and activity that has occurred. And it makes more sense in our current configuration because you can speak with the other communities and other folks to the north, south, east, and west of us. I wear a few hats in Mount Kisco. I'm predominantly known as a political leader, but I am also a very active community leader and a very active member of the church and a number of philanthropic organizations as well. I'm a husband, father, brother, and family throughout. Currently in the 17th congressional district, I believe that we are situated in a good place. I would like to recommend that that were to remain the same. I appreciate the time today, and I'm available for any subsequent future conversations if anyone wants to reach out for me. And certainly, I know you, David, have all my contact info. So thank you for the time today, and thank you for all the work that you are doing.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you joining us. Supervisor Spect, how are you today? You are on mute.
Thank you very much. And well, thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this important issue. I'm the supervisor of the town of Ramapo in Rockland County. We are the largest town in the county of Rockland with approximately 130,000 residents as of the last census. And this makes me fortunate to have a unique perspective into not just the demographic composition of the town, but also insight into the town's interaction with the state legislature, specifically the New York State Assembly. Even though the town of Ramapo is large enough to be placed into one single assembly district that is wholly contained within our municipality, our town was inexplicably divided into three separate districts, ADs 96, 97, and 98. In fact, one of the districts, which contains about 30% of the town's population, is curiously grouped with Orange County for reasons that are apparent to no one. Because of this enigmatic split, now one of our elected representatives in the assembly feels that they truly represent Ramapo, and their affinity for the town is tenuous at best due to the fact that their attention and focus is often elsewhere. None of the assembly members feel that Ramapo is in fact theirs. None of the assembly members even has a district office located within the town. As a result of the fact that the town was carved up into multiple assembly districts, our town and our residents have suffered immensely. Financial assistance for the town of Ramapo from the assembly over the past decade has been virtually non-existent. Ramapo is an incredibly diverse town that is home to a large, low-income immigrant population, and we have large and vibrant Hispanic, Latinx, Haitian, and Orthodox Jewish communities, none of whom truly have anyone in the assembly who they can turn to for assistance with an array of different issues that impact their communities, both individually and collectively. Our residents deserve a dedicated assembly member who understands them, cares about them, and can focus on them. After the deadly anti-Semitic attack in the town of Ramapo in December 2019, in which a man brandishing a machete entered a rabbi's home during a Hanukkah celebration and stabbed 5 people, there was an outpouring of love, concern, and assistance from a broad spectrum of people. We received help from the governor and from the Senate as they immediately recognized the need to combat bigotry and take steps to ensure that such a tragedy does not occur again. Sadly, the assembly was conspicuously absent during that terrible time. I have no doubt that if the town had one dedicated assembly member that represented us, he or she would have been there for us in our time of need. The New York State Constitution says that whenever possible, a municipality should be not split up into different parts in the context of legislative districts. Pursuant to the state constitution and considering the size of our town, Ramapo should comprise one attacked assembly district. As you begin the important task of laying future state legislative lines, I implore you to take an equitable, sensible, and practical approach and ensure that the town of Ramapo is not arbitrarily divided again. Our residents deserve better, and I hope and trust you will take the foregoing points into consideration as you move forward. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Supervisor Spect. Really appreciate you joining us. Pamela Wood, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I am on the executive board of Progressive Women of Pelham. I speak to you on behalf of our group of over 300 progressive activists. Pelham and Pelham Manor are part of one of the most infamously gerrymandered districts in the state, State Senate District 34. In 2014, Common Cause awarded us the Pablo Picasso Salvador Dali Award for most creatively drawn legislative district. Personally, I do not know the history or the precedent that contributed to the artistic interpretation of our geographic area, but I do know that it does not represent us well. We are a small suburban community joined to our neighbors in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and the Bronx by major roadways such as the Hutchinson Parkway, I-95, and local thoroughfares like Colonial/Sanford Boulevard, Lincoln Avenue, and Boston Post Road. These roads are the lifeline of our car-centric community, as is the Stamford line of Metro North. Although many of our residents ride the subway regularly, there is no subway access in Pelham. We are also proud of the walkability of our small town, with a busy north-south shopping district along a former trolley route. Many of us live here because of the close proximity to New York City. However, our legislative needs are very different from those of city residents. We do not have the urban density and commercial traffic of the city, and thus commercial real estate and development should not be regulated in the same way as New York City. We do not rely on the subway system, so our transit needs are different. We rely much more heavily on Metro North, B-line bus system, and state and local roads. We are not part of the New York City Department of Education. And finally, we have 2 small municipal police departments with very different structure and oversight from that of our neighbors in New York City. These are the core issues that local and federal representatives advocate and legislate for, and we feel strongly that being overwhelmed by a majority New York City district, much of which is neither contiguous to us nor share many resources with us, means that we are not fully represented either in the state legislature nor in Congress. Although our congressional district 16 is a better mix of New York City and Westchester than State District 34, we should be represented in Congress in a majority Westchester district. PWP feel very strongly that the time to redraw Pelham State Senate District 34 is long overdue. This district is not geographically, economically, or socially cohesive. We share roadways and shopping areas with some of our neighbors, but our schools don't even play teams from other schools in our district. It is time we shared elected representatives with the communities nearest us, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and Eastchester, with whom we share so much of our communal and civic life. Thank you for engaging in this important step in the process, listening to resident voters.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it. Shari Greenbaum, how are you today?
I am great, David. How are you?
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Commission members. Good afternoon. I am Shari Greenbaum, the Director of the Rockland Regional Office of Agudath Israel of America. I am a proud citizen of the town of Ramapo in Rockland County with family roots in Muncie, New York since 1943, when the total population was less than 1,000 people according to the 1950 census. Unincorporated Muncie was too small to be listed in the census. The community grew and flourished. Currently, the town of Ramapo is the most populous town in New York State west of the Hudson. If Ramapo incorporated as a city, it will be the 6th largest city in the state of New York. And although the town occupies only 35% of the county, the population is at least 42% of Rockland County. The town is also unique. We merit to have been sliced and diced into 3 assembly districts, 96, 97, and 98. There is no other town in the state of New York that has been divided in a similar way. Why is this very significant town sliced through the heart into more than 1 district? Our elected officials at all levels in our government are charged by our Constitution to promote general welfare, secure the blessing of liberty to those they represent. That's why in 2014, the New York State passed a proposition that communities of interest shall be considered during the redistricting process. We indeed have a unique and distinct character. We are a big town, yet we maintain the small town personality. We believe it takes a village, a community where one neighbor supports the other, where chesed is the unifying cry of the residents. Chesed, like many Hebrew words, does not translate precisely into English. The word means more than simply kindness. It means giving oneself fully with love and compassion. Highlighted by Hatzalah, a volunteer ambulance corps with over 250 volunteers providing advanced as well as basic emergency medical care. Chaverim, a volunteer ambulance service organization with more than 150 volunteers that responds to natural and man-made disasters, search and rescue, emergency roadside assistance, numerous other free loan societies, charitable organizations, food pantries, and much more. Besides, for a vibrant public school system, the community has more than 100 independent private schools, more than 31,000 students, and more than 150 houses of worship. We must preserve and protect the social infrastructure we developed over the past 6 decades and maintain the beautiful culture of our town, community, and neighborhoods. We need to preserve the booming economy that is essential and integral component of our successful community. We insist that we safeguard the educational needs of our thousands of students. I respectfully ask the Honorable Commission to make sure that the new district will no longer be a disorganized jumble of communities with different interests. Rather, we appeal for representative, a person from the people, for the people, familiar with the community needs, who appreciate the richness of the community, its essential services that make us a safe, vibrant, and beautiful community. I ask to end the unfair representation, keep our community among. Thank you for that opportunity. God bless our Honorable Commission, the state of New York, and the United States of America.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank
Mary
you.
Kirsch, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Mary Kirsch. I live in the town of Newcastle in Westchester. I vote in the 17th Congressional District, the 40th Senate District, and the 93rd Assembly District. I'm a retired public school math teacher and an adjunct instructor of math at Westchester Community College. Adequate funding for public education is very important to me. Although most people in my town are in the Chappaqua School District, I'm in the Ossining School District. When my children were in school, I was an active member of the Ossining PTA. Another keen interest of mine is good governance. I'm an active member of the League of Women Voters. I've been following the redistricting issue since 1980, and I am very aware of what contiguous and compact were meant to look like. The outlines of the 40th Senate District and the 93rd Assembly District show they are not reasonably compact. Both districts are much longer north to south than they are wide. The effect is to split the Ossining School District residents among 2 different Senate districts and 3 different assembly districts. I think a school district would be a natural community of interest. In fact, the Ossining School District was not receiving its fair share of New York State Department of Education funding for years. This underscores the value of compactness. People who live near each other often share circumstances related to education, transportation, roads, waste, and water infrastructure. That's why the work of your committee is so important. My written testimony has maps attached. You can see for yourself how wacky these districts are. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate you joining us. Janice Lynn, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. My name is Janice, and I'm a rising sophomore at Edgemont Junior Senior High School in the town of Greenburgh, which is in central southern Westchester. Although I've been in New York for only 4 years, I can see how strong the community is. When there's a problem, neighbors come together and ask the government to improve their situation. Just last week, my street came together to talk about a recent flooding in the area and how the town of Greenburgh could change the pipes. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm a competitive swimmer on my school's varsity team since 7th grade and in a US club. Edgemont is fairly small with only 2,000 students in the entire district. That's not enough for modified JV and varsity teams in each sport. So for swimming, Edgemont has collaborated with Sleepy Hollow, Dobbs Ferry, and Irvington to become Shetty. You would think that there would be an available 25-yard pool in one of these 4 districts or villages. Yet somehow we hold practices in a college pool in Terrytown. For my club practice, it's a similar story. They practice at Hackley, a private school in Terrytown. So whenever I go to swim, I'm practicing in CD17, represented by Mondaire Jones. But remember, I live in Edgemont School District, which is in the southern part of unincorporated Greenburgh. Where I live, I'm represented by Jamal Bowman, New York's 16th congressional representative. It could be beneficial to have a town's voice heard by 2 representatives. However, there are significant downsides. Going back to the flooding near my home, if there was flooding in all of Greenburgh, it might need state and/or federal aid. My community would need to contact 2 separate representatives, all of which would prove to be frustrating not only to us, the constituents, but also to the representatives, since their attention may be needed at passing legislation or fundraising. The residents in the town of Greenburgh would also have less say in both districts. This would cause representatives to dismiss conversations with us, since politicians can still win their congressional seat without half a town when they have other municipalities in the district. All people deserve to have their voice heard, especially by those who represent them. It's not valuable for either party or when any municipality like Greenburgh is split into 2 congressional districts. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, and I hope you take my thoughts into consideration as you commissioners in New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Appreciate you joining us today. Brendan Cushing, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, David?
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me, everyone. All right. Yes. First, I would like to thank the members of the Independent Redistricting Commission of New York for allowing me to be here today to testify. My name is Brendan Cushing. I'm a 24-year-old SUNY Albany graduate. And for the past 6 years or so, I've been living, organizing, and most importantly, voting in the capital region of the great state of New York. And I'm here today to urge the commission to recognize that Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, Rensselaer, and Montgomery counties must stay together in the same congressional district. Now, for starters, each of these counties are geographically cohesive, which is to say that they border one another, and the socioeconomic and political conditions that affect any one of these counties are relatively uniform across the region. Now, each of these counties are additionally tied together economically and by dense transportation networks. I grew up on Long Island, but I've been living here in Albany for the past 6 years or so, and I love the city. Love the city of Albany, but nevertheless, my friends and I here, we are frequently traveling all across the region to Saratoga Springs, Boston Spa, Troy, Schenectady, Amsterdam, and more locations throughout the capital region, simply to try new restaurants, shop at our favorite stores, enjoy the nightlife that's offered at the bars, participate in the free concerts and the farmers markets and all of the other programming that's put on in the capital region. And when I tell people that I live in the capital region, I say it with great pride, because when I think of the capital region, it's not just the city of Albany. The capital region, it truly, economically speaking, consists of a number of different cities and locations throughout the above the counties that I just mentioned. And I couldn't even fathom, for that reason, the economic ties between these counties, any of these counties being split up into a different congressional district. Furthermore, I want to mention that each of these counties are tied together by the Capital District Transportation Authority, the CDTA, which provides readily available public transportation throughout the counties and the cities that fall within them. the CDTA currently provides service to more than 800,000 people who live and work in the region, and they transport more than 55,000 customers each weekday. And so I mention this only to show that all of these counties within the capital region are not only economically tied together and politically tied together, but also the infrastructure is there that ties them together as well. And finally, keeping these counties together in the same congressional district, in the same stable boundary, promotes good representation and governance. As I've mentioned, you can see there's economic, social, and political conditions that fall pretty much uniformly across all of these counties. And we in the capital region deserve a representative in Congress who's going to represent the whole region and continue to be a champion and fight for our shared geographic interests. And so with that, I want to thank the commission for allowing me to testify today and just urge that you recognize, please, that Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, Rensselaer, and Montgomery counties must fall within the same congressional district.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
Shoshana Bernstein, how are you today?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for
All right.
having us. Thank you, commissioners, and for everyone who's here and listening. My name is Shoshana Bernstein. I've lived in the town of Ramapo in Rockland County now for about 30 years. Hang on, let me get my video up and running. See me now? Okay, great. So Shoshana Bernstein, town of Ramapo for 30 plus years. As was previously stated, we're divided into districts 96, 97, and 98. And I'm speaking to you today. I am a community activist and a medical advocate, and I want to speak on really on the community and the personal level. Michael Spect mentioned the stabbing and that took place a couple of years ago. I live around the corner from that. And just as, you know, in prep for today, I Googled assemblyman and put in Hanukkah stabbing. And I think it's very indicative by what the top 10 hits on that Google search included Assemblyman Dov Highkind and Assemblyman Simcha Eichenstein. And I think that reality really speaks to the issue at hand. We need to have someone, like Aaron Reeder said, we need to be unified. We need to be all together where we know our issues are being addressed by people who really care about us, about the citizens, about the people who live here. During COVID alone, I was involved in numerous organizations, startups, assistance, whether it was food for seniors, for children. The only thing I could say is if there was an assembly office close by, they know me very well. I don't want that to be a precautionary statement, but we need to be able to have people that really know us all together as a community of interest with a lot of different issues, some of them fantastic and some of them that really need help. And I thank you for your time and for your consideration of keeping town of Ramapo and our issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Shoshana. I appreciate you joining us. Maria Mann, how are you today?
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. Good, thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Maria Mann, and for the past 29 years, I have been a resident and business owner here in the city of Port Jervis, which is located in Orange County. We neighbor Sullivan and Rockland counties. I am a personalized business owner that interconnects with the community that stays together as one district. Orange County is a unified community, which should be its own district. Again, I thank you for your time and you're just taking the time to listen to my voice and my opinion.
Thank you, Maria. We appreciate you joining us. Barb Thomas, how are you today?
Well, let me unmute myself so I know I am. So now, can you
Yes,
see and hear me? Because
yes.
I was just having a little difficulty.
Yes, we can see and hear you. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. My name is Barbara Thomas, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. We are a nonpartisan group of over 200 members working to empower voters through education and advocacy. The Saratoga County League asks that you respect and preserve the municipal and county boundaries, by which we already identify ourselves and conduct our lives. Saratoga County has seen impressive growth over the past 10 years. A boom in the high-tech business sector has contributed to sustained economic growth. Historic sites, cultural attractions, entertainment, and outstanding natural beauty are among our valuable resources. But this boom has been matched by the growing needs of the unhoused, working families, and the unemployed. Effective representation is critical to addressing these needs. When the official new census counts are released, Saratoga County's population will likely entitle us to 1.5 assembly districts. We request that we be split into only 2 different assembly districts, not the current 4 assembly districts that we are in. And our current state senate and assembly districts are drawn so that the county, and in fact, some towns, have divided representation. For example, Boston Spa is the county seat, yet it is split off from the largest city in the county, Saratoga Springs. Even Saratoga Springs is split between 2 Senate districts. Please note on the maps that were attached that Senate District 43 stretches over 110 miles from top to bottom. Another oddly drawn Senate district is 49, where Boston Spa is grouped with the city of Schenectady with a notch out to omit most of Saratoga Springs. In terms of which congressional district Saratoga County should be part of, it is important to note, as one of the previous speakers just said, that, that the majority of our residents are more oriented towards the capital district than to the North Country. Significant proportions of our population are employed in state government and in other large businesses in Albany and Schenectady. Currently, the Saratoga Springs School District is divided into 2 different congressional districts, 20 and 21. The League of Women Voters of Saratoga County asks you to maintain the integrity of our community and county borders so that our common needs and goals are represented by 1 U.S. Congressperson, 1 state senator, and 2 rather than 4 assembly members. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Appreciate you joining us today. Yossi, you are next before the commission. How are you today?
I am doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah, my name is Yossi Gestetner. I'm co-founder of OJPAC, the Orthodox Jewish Public Affairs Council, whose mission is to fight bigotry against Orthodox Jews and to advocate for civil rights and civil liberties. Obviously, all people who show up to this meeting try to advocate that their own district and community shouldn't be carved out. But I would like to make a special request for the Orthodox Jewish community in Rockland and Orange counties, and here's why. While the New York population over the last 10 years has moved essentially sideways, the Orthodox Jewish community in New York has grown exponentially, and here are 3 data points. Kiryas Joel, which is in Orange County, rose by 31%. Private Jewish school enrollment in Rockland County has risen by 67%. And almost all this growth is in the town of Ramapo, where Orthodox Jews are more than half of the population. In fact, town of Ramapo's population over the last 10 years has risen 22 times faster than the state. So in other words, this area of the state by law is qualified to have more representation over the next 10 years as opposed to how it was the last 10 years. And as previous people have stressed, the town of Ramapo has been cut up in 3 separate assembly districts. The Orthodox Jewish community in Ramapo has been cut up, and as a result, we did not have regular representation over the last 10 years, and no elected official on the state level even felt an obligation to respond to the requests and the needs of the people living there because the community was cut up and carved out. Orthodox Jews are a community, which is an ethnicity. The growth of this community necessitates that the lower Hudson Valley overall, especially Rockland and Orange counties, should have more and better representation in the last decade. It would be unfair and potentially illegal to rearrange the new legislative maps in the same way as they were over the last 10 years. I hope and ask that the injustice that was done a decade ago with consequences felt all over Ramapo and all over the Jewish community the last 10 years should not be repeated. And I'm hopeful and confident that the committee will do a fair and balanced and legal job going forward. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Yussi. Appreciate you joining us. Mr. Rose, how are you today?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the commission. And thank you so much for giving us an opportunity for some feedback. My name is Chaim Rose. I am a resident of the town of Ramapo. In addition, I am a village trustee of the great village of Chestnut Ridge. I would like to bring up a point and actually request that the commission right a wrong that was perpetrated towards the town of Ramapo. The town of Ramapo has been divided into 3 assembly districts, District 96, 97, and 98. And to me, and to all town residents, especially the Orthodox community, that is totally unacceptable. And as the previous speakers have mentioned, the town of Ramapo has grown, and especially the Orthodox community. By dividing us into 3 districts or even 2 districts, and by not keeping it into 1 district, the Orthodox community and the African American community in Spring Valley is being discriminated against. There is part of the assembly district that is in the town of, which is in Orange County. We are the only town that has divided our assembly district, which is unacceptable. Therefore, I humbly request on behalf of my constituents in the village and all the residents in the town of Ramapo to put us all into 1 assembly district. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chaim. Appreciate you joining us.
Mona, are you present? We're waiting for one more person to join us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Mona. How are you?
Second.
Hi, Mona.
Hi, how are you? Sorry about that.
Hi. No worries.
Little technical difficulties there. Sorry about that. First, good afternoon. I apologize for my voice. I've recently had some surgery, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. Thank you for allowing me to speak about an issue that I am quite passionate about. As the chair of the Town of Ramapo Democratic Committee and as a longtime resident of the town who is active in civic affairs, I am very mindful of the need for strong representation on the state level. Much of what happens in the town is dependent on a strong and substantive partnership with the state legislature. And that begins with having state representatives in the Senate and Assembly who care about the town and are able to represent Ramapo's residents with no distractions. Unfortunately, our town had been lacking a true partner in the Assembly for quite some time, which is primarily attributable to the fact that Ramapo was divided, as many have told you, into 3 separate assembly districts, which was at the time absolutely baffling. Our town's population, both its size and its demographic makeup, are conducive to having 1 assembly member, and if we need more, no more than 2. However, our request would be 1 assembly district that encompasses the entire town. With over 130,000 residents and a diverse population that is comprised of people from very, very different backgrounds, ethnicities, and religions, the town of Ramapo is unique in many ways. As such, The people in our town would benefit immensely from having one assembly member who is attuned to our needs and will be our voice in the state assembly. Having multiple assemblymen representing different parts of our town is counterproductive and virtually assures that the varied needs of the people who call Ramapo home cannot be adequately addressed. Because of this disparate system that is currently in place, whereby 3 different people represent 3 different parts of the town, Ramapo residents are in essence being robbed of their right to have adequate representation. Employing a haphazard, nonsensical approach when it came to drawing Ramapo's assembly district lines has proven to be a failure, and the Independent Redistricting Commission of New York State now has the opportunity to right a wrong and remedy a regrettable error. I therefore respectfully urge you to take a closer look at the town and take some time to better understand its needs relative to the representation of the New York State Assembly, and to consider in fact that we are one district with one representative representing this town is prudent and a necessary approach. As you embark on redistricting process, one that is often fraught with multiple and complex issues, I believe that one issue is abundantly clear. The town of Ramapo deserves to be treated fairly, and the residents of our town certainly deserve to have a single representative in the assembly, someone who is solely our best interest. Thank you and good luck on your endeavor.
Thank you so much, Mona. So commissioners, we are running ahead of schedule. So we actually have no one in the queue at the moment. So I would ask for a 15-minute break until the next flight of people come. Is there any objection to that?
No objection.
Okay. All right. Well, commissioners, let us reconvene at 3:40. Right. Thank you all so much. I believe we have everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commissioners. I see we are having some technology issues. So.
Commissioners, if you're ready, we have our next speaker.
Thank you, Miranda. Barry Caro, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Good. How are you doing, David? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So first, I want to thank all the commissioners for your hard work. I know how tough and thankless this job is and how vital the work of drawing fair districts for New York is. I am going to focus on Westchester and the Lower Hudson Valley in my comments because it's where I grew up. It's where I know, and especially the state legislature, because in the previous round of redistricting was some of the most gerrymandered territory in all of New York State. So I think It is absolutely vital that as this commission looks at the lines going forward, that there is no over or under population for partisan advantage by region of the state. There are certain areas, in fact, parts of the Hudson Valley and the Capital Region benefited from that, other parts did not, but that people be treated fairly regardless of where they live in the state, that every state Senate, state assembly district be given equal weight and equal population. That might mean that certain areas of the state lose state legislative districts and others gain it. In the Assembly and the Senate, that dynamic would probably be reversed by regions of the state, but it's what's required for fairness. Second, I would say that you need truly contiguous compact districts. You have a district in the lower Hudson Valley that is contiguous in name only. In order to drive between the parts of it, you have to drive through two other state Senate districts, crossing over a major water barrier. That's not a truly contiguous district. And it splits up a community of interest as well. In addition, it splits up a county that under the state constitution should be united in a single state Senate district. So that sort of thing needs to not happen this next time around. It sort of also points to the idea that counties should not be unnecessarily split to gain partisan advantage this time around. You see that with Rockland County into Westchester County. You see that with Westchester County and Putnam County. The way Putnam County is split up is designed to elect members of certain parties depending on which office you're seeking. So that should not be the method that this committee takes, and that may require, to some extent, ignoring where folks live or what might seem to be in the narrow partisan interests of some people. And I see I have 30 seconds left. But I do want to end by noting that actually,
Barry. Okay, we have lost Barry, it appears. Miranda, can you just keep an eye out for him, and when he comes back, well, I think he paused at 20 seconds.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
We'll
So
make sure he gets his time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Betty, how are you? I hope you do not similarly freeze up on us.
Hi. I can't believe I'm here and I'm doing this. So am I supposed to just say what the reason?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm here and doing this either, but you know. Yeah, should I just you have 3 minutes, say your piece. Yeah.
Okay. I am here because one district in Scarsdale has been separated from Scarsdale and ridiculously added to the Bronx. And I think that the Bronx belongs in New York City and that Scarsdale belongs together in Scarsdale and in Westchester. And I think the way it is now, it dilutes the strength of the Scarsdale voter. So I am here to request that Scarsdale be united in a district. That's why.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Betty. You have 2 more minutes, but you know, if you're done.
I'm not from the talkers, so that's it.
Right. Well, thank you, Betty. We appreciate your brevity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Okay.
Sergio, how are you? You are on mute, Sergio.
Yeah, that's important. How are you guys doing today?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for doing this. So I wrote some stuff down so this way I don't waste a lot of your time. So let me begin. My name is Sergio Esposito, and I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce in Yorktown. And it's located in Westchester County along the Putnam County border. I want to thank the Independent Redistricting Commission for accepting public input about the upcoming redistricting to help inform its decision-making process. It's really important that you get the input. Yorktown is located in northern Westchester, along with other towns including Somers, Cortland, Mount Pleasant, Lewisboro, and North Salem that are all north of the I-287. As the president of the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, I can tell you that these northern Westchester towns all have intersecting local economies and local concerns that are very different from the towns and cities found in southern Westchester. In fact, Northern Westchester is much more closely connected economically and socially with our neighbors in Putnam County. In Yorktown, our businesses even draw a significant number of customers from Southern Dutchess County. The interrelationship has traditionally been reflected in Northern Westchester's representation in the state Senate and state assembly. Instead of being connected with cities and towns in Southern Westchester that are much more urbanized and connected to New York City than our area, Yorktown and other Northern Westchester towns have been included with Putnam and Southern Dutchess counties in state assembly districts 94, 95, and state Senate District 40. And this should continue. On the congressional level, Northern Westchester has been cut in half, with one side connected with Putnam, Southern Dutchess counties, and the other connected to Southern Westchester and Rockland counties. Makes no sense. And all of Northern Westchester should be kept together moving forward. I urge the commission to recognize the local considerations, and they're actually hyper-local considerations, and the economic and social realities of Northern Westchester County while making its decisions. This is the only way that Northern Westchester will receive effective representation in Albany and in Washington, D.C. The representation will not be accurate and will lead to further hardship on our businesses if it were to change, and our local communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Appreciate you joining us. Mendy Lasker, how are you today?
Hi, David. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak in front of the commission. My name is Mendy Lasker. I live in the village of Pomona, which is partially in the town of Ramapo. I'm a trustee in the village. I'm reaching out to the commission due to the fact we got the opportunity to speak, but part of our village is actually split into two towns. We are represented in the town of Ramapo and in the town of Haverstraw. So that's already a cumbersome situation on the day-to-day life. But besides that, in the town of Ramapo, my constituents are split into three districts, 96, 97, and 98, which makes it very hard on them. I believe it's the only town in the county, Rockland County, that has three districts within its town. The town of Haverstraw is fully covered by one district, and by now it should be time, with the amount of residents that live in the town of Ramapo, that they should have someone who could represent them fully, as I know myself how much time it takes to be able to cover even a small village. So for sure, the larger you are, the harder it is to cover that place. And if they have a certain town they cover based on the population there, they will be able to take care of their constituents with a much more detailed view and trying to help what's needed for that area. So I request if the commission could look into this and try to see if they could redistrict the town of Ramapo so that it should be hopefully at least one or two districts and not three like today. I appreciate your time and effort to take the consideration from residents, and I hope something will be done for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lasker. David Elcott, how are you today?
Excellent, thank you. I'm in the car, we were traveling, but there are two of us actually are going to speak, so we'll split our time. I'm a professor at New York University and an activist and organizer, and have been working in the Westchester community, in our community, to engage our political leaders and our community. For example, we organized a food pantry when the pandemic hit. We served over 10,000 times of families over the course of the 18 months that we were working. That brought us connected to our area, which is White Plains, Scarsdale, Hartsdale, Ardsley, New Rochelle. It's all one community. We've been divided on our congressional level, not on our state senate and our assembly, which has been great, but on the congressional level, we've been divided artificially. We have two wonderful members of Congress, Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones. However, if there's going to be redistricting, it would be very important to reconnect us, White Plains, Scarsdale, Ardsley, Hartsdale, that core area to be in one congressional district. And that's really our concern here. Essentially, that Mondaire Jones has been our representative in White Plains, Jamal Bowman in Scarsdale. But we're looking as organizers and activists to bring together actually these communities. It's also issues of equity as well, economic diversity, diversity of population. It would be a wonderful community and make much more sense in the way that it's divided at the moment. So that's my side as an organizer. Let me give you our other person.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Shira Milgram of Congregation Klem in White Plains. I also chair the White Plains religious leaders across religious lines. And we work all the time with our co-religious leaders in surrounding communities. We work very closely with Scarsdale. And my synagogue and all the synagogues in White Plains draw from these communities. Our organic community is White Plains, Ardsley, Edgemont, Hartsdale, Scarsdale. And we have been working together. And for us, of course, being able to mobilize and to work for the wider community and to raise the level of all is something which is critical to our being able to lift all boats in these waters. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you joining us from the car.
Bye-bye.
Ruben Estrada, how are you?
I got on mute, no doubt.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
And I could do that now. Okay, hold on. Let me just get the photo here. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Ruben Estrada. I'm chairman of the American Latino Coalition. I am also I'm a member for the last 14 years of the SUNY Orange Foundation, raising money for the college for not only its capital projects, but also scholarship money every year. I host the Hudson Valley Fiesta Latina, which occurs every year. Unfortunately, last 2 years we couldn't do it, but it occurs every year at Monroe's Museum Village. My group and our organization has decided that we have unique needs here in the Hudson Valley. And I believe this district should be a district that coterminous, some kind of coterminous situation, whereas we have northern district needs. Good example. I feel very different than the guys in Westchester County. I believe my needs up here in Orange County are very different from Westchester and Scarsdale. Okay, and so does my community, which I represent. We're a large number of people here. We're talking about Allenville, many folks there, Latinos, Orange County. We have history back in Ulster County when Plattekill, we used to pick apples there in the 1950s and 60s, and we stayed. If you remember, La Villa. So we've been here a long time. I'm originally from Spanish Harlem, born and raised in El Barrio. Moved up here very long time ago, actually about 30 years ago. And I'm 68, and in doing so, we are very adamant about maintaining and retaining our district lines minimally, and at least to push up and opposed down. I do think that the needs of us are pretty unique, and I thank you very much for all what you're doing. This is very important because a lot of folks don't know about this, and what happens is, I noticed we got two Latinos, I assume you're Latina and Molina, two Latinos on this hearing, which so far that I could see. And I'm very anxious to hear what she says, but I do say that I represent a group that's very adamant about retaining and maybe pushing up a little more so that we really have a coterminous ideals and ideas, I think. I thank you very much for inviting me and me being part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Appreciate you joining us. Aiden Rowan, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
All right. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. I'm actually joining you from the golf course. Sorry if you hear any loud noise. So I just, yeah.
It's okay. Tell
Out of
us
10.
tell us what district the golf course is in. You know?
I am in the 17th congressional district. I think the 97th assembly district, but I actually live in the town of Stony Point. So I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak on behalf of myself and many other town of Stony Point residents. For so long, Stony Point has been a historic riverfront town with a small hometown feel to it. And it has always been in the Orange County, Dutchess County congressional district. As a Stony Point resident, I feel that my town should be represented by someone who understands that the district they represent is a smaller community to their own. Stony Point is a small rural suburban town that doesn't really belong in a district with the city of White Plains. We don't have a building in our town bigger than the smallest building in the city of White Plains. And our community isn't the same as the community in White Plains or other parts of Westchester County. The needs of the constituents in White Plains are very different from the needs of a constituent in my small town of Stony Point. And our residents deserve representation from a representative that understands the needs and concerns of a resident here in Stony Point. Here in our town, we're represented in the 99th Assembly District and in the 39th Senate District, which is represented by Assemblyman Colin Schmidt and Senator James Skoufis, both having, give or take, about 85% of Orange County in their districts, which is great because Orange County is in a has smaller towns throughout it, like Stony Point. Very similar towns, communities, and villages. Historically, Stony Point was always in the Orange County District, which was the former 19th Congressional District. And I don't know what it was when Ben Gilman was congressman so many years ago, but I think you kind of get the point that Stony Point was always included in the Orange County District, but now we're in the 17th Congressional District, which is all of Rockland County and a majority of Westchester County. And I feel that the needs in Stony Point are so much different than the needs of a constituent in Westchester, which would make us and Westchester, I'd hope, want a representative that would represent their needs in Westchester and represent our needs here in Rockland. So I'll hope that this redistricting committee will consider drawing the lines of our district to include Stony Point back in the now 18th congressional district. I'm not sure what the number will be, but I want to thank everybody for joining and having a say on the way our district should be drawn. And I really want to thank everybody for allowing me to speak. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate you joining us. Hope you do well on the golf course. Steve, how are you today?
Hello. Good afternoon, Chairman Imamura and the other commissioners. My name is Steve Coleus. I'm a resident of the city of Peekskill, and I'm the vice chair of the Peekskill Democratic City Committee. We are advocating to keep Peekskill as one district, one unified district in the 95th Assembly District, the 40th State Senate District, and the 17th Congressional District. At one time, Peekskill was split and was represented by two different members of the State Assembly, and it's important that this doesn't happen again. This is important to keep our 4.5 square mile city with close to 24,000 people together as one unified city, a community with a diverse demographic, but unified as an entity. 95% of our Peekskill residents attend one school district, which allows our residents to attend school together from kindergarten through 12th grade. We are one community with a shared social and economic interests. The demographic makeup of the city of Peekskill more closely aligns with Rockland County than Putnam County. The city of Peekskill, according to the new census data, is 23% African American, whereas Rockland County is 13% African American and Putnam County is 4% African American. Peekskill has a Hispanic population of 43%, whereas Rockland has a Hispanic population of 18% and Putnam 16%. However, regarding language other than English spoken at home, Peekskill and Rockland County have an almost identical percentage at 40 and 39% respectively. Comparatively, Putnam County has 18% of language other than English speakers. Therefore, in conclusion, Peekskill is advocating that we remain as one unified district, one unified city in all three of the congressional, state senate, and assembly districts that we are currently in. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you joining us. James, how are you today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Good afternoon. My name is James Lofranco, and I have lived in the village of South Blooming Grove, located in Orange County, for the past 25 years. I am also the former mayor of the village. The Mid-Hudson Valley is an important interconnected region in New York State. We have shared values, environments, economies, and social structures. On the west side of the Hudson, communities in Orange County have a common bond. Roads like Interstate 87, Interstate 84, along with Route 17, also known as the Quickway, connect Orange County and its economy to the rest of the communities throughout New York State. With the ever-increasing population of all the communities in Orange County, we need to have consolidated representation in order to be represented in the best possible way. Orange, Sullivan, and Rockland counties share mutual representation, civic, health, and professional organizations. It is very important to keep these communities that share so much and have like interests together so we get the best possible representation. I thank you for taking this on and allowing everybody to speak their mind, and I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Maxine Laudenberg, how are you today? Hi, Maxine, you are on mute. Oh, there we are. Hello.
Sorry, it wasn't doing
No
its
problem.
thing.
No problem.
So I want to thank the Independent Redistricting Commission for organizing this series of public hearings on the upcoming redistricting cycle. I am Maxine Linda Glautenberg, co-coordinator of the Saratoga Immigration Coalition. That's a network of faith communities, civic organizations, and concerned individuals. And I'm also a member of the ZDEC Social Action Committee of Temple Sinai in Saratoga Springs. The SIC offers direct support, education, and advocacy for immigrant members of our community in New York's Capital District and the adjoining counties of Saratoga, Warren, and Washington. We partner with New York Immigration Coalition's Mapping Our Future campaign, a statewide network of advocates dedicated to mobilizing the grassroots to get involved in redistricting and advocate for a fair process on fair maps. Fair districts, as all of you know, are the foundation for fair representation. The opportunity to draw them comes only every 10 years, and as you know, there are no do-overs. So if it's not done in a mindful way, the right way, our communities have to live with the consequences for the next decade. I live in Saratoga Township, although my mailing address is Stillwater and the home base for the Immigration Coalition is Saratoga Springs. This immediately places in focus the mix of rural, urban, and suburban culture in the area. Today, I'm speaking as a part of the Capital Region, but my congressional district representative claims that I live in the North Country. I live and see firsthand the consequences of unfair districting that attempts to separate people according to their different voting preferences rather than their common economic and cultural interests. Many of my immigrant neighbors live in the semi-rural area where I reside outside of Saratoga Springs, which is one congressional district. Yet, like myself, they depend on employment and services, including social services in the city of Saratoga Springs, which is another district. Because of political differences, these two districts take different degrees of interest in immigrants' needs and therefore make very different provisions. I also speak to this disparity because I have experienced it. It is not just immigrants who are affected. Residents of the two areas, rural and urban, are encouraged by this unfair districting to operate effectively in separate silos rather than working together to solve common problems that affect the entire region. Well-drawn districts that consider how an area identifies itself and its needs like mine keep individuals like myself and the communities where I live and where I serve working together. This can protect New York's immigrants and communities of color, allow challengers to have a fair shot at winning elections, and energize civic engagement. I would suggest partnering for outreach with community-based organizations that have the trust of members of marginalized communities. And I have two other things, but I'm just going to thank you because I see my time is running out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Maxine. Appreciate you joining us. Deborah, how are you today?
Hi, how are you, David? Very nice to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, so I'm Deborah Porter. I thank you all for giving me time to speak and for doing this important work. I am a resident of Scarsdale, where I've lived for 27 years. I'm a retired attorney, and since I retired, I've become a really big grassroots activist, especially in the area of elections. I've always had an interest in that, going back to 2004 when I went to Florida for the New York Democratic Lawyers Council. And I'm going to repeat what other people have said about Scarsdale. We have one election district in one congressional district, and the rest of Scarsdale is in another. And we would like to be one district. It really dilutes our very small political power to be divided in two. We have 5,500 homes and about 17,000 residents. So we really don't need to have two different Congress representatives. At the other levels of government, we have just one. County and state, it's just one. And we are combined with the very urban parts of the Bronx, with which we have almost nothing in common. Culturally and socioeconomically, we have much more in common with areas like Edgemont, Larchmont, Ardsley, Hastings, Dobbs Ferry, Irvington, Chappaqua, Armonk, and Pleasantville. We have similar standards of living to those communities, small local school districts, liberal social and cultural views, and a lot of us commute on Metro North. And we have much more interaction with White Plains. Many people in Scarsdale work, worship, shop, go to the doctor, go to the movies, play golf, go to restaurants, go to beauty salons, etc. in White Plains. And we don't go to the Bronx for these things. It's just too far away, and it's too different. It's too hard to park. So I wanted to say one other thing. As an activist, I want to tell you that the Westchester activist community is very united. It's thriving, and it's not a reach to say we literally all know each other and work together. And we'd like to have one single representative for Scarsdale and with Westchester communities in particular, where we're politically and socially aligned. And I thank you for my time, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate you joining us.
Okay.
Paul Harrington, how are you today?
There we go.
On mute. There you are. Yes, hello.
Hi, I'm Paul Harrington. I'm a retired New York State correction officer. I'm also a law enforcement advocate, and I am the author of my upcoming book, Justice or Not, that's being released this fall. Right now, I'm currently in the town of Newburgh, which is the 18th congressional district, and that includes Orange and Putnam County, as well as parts of Westchester and Dutchess County. I'll be brief in just saying that I would really like to see districts in Sullivan County combined with the 18th district of Orange County as well in my area. Also, I would like to thank the IRC commissioners for your time and consideration of this. Told you I'd be brief, and there I was.
Thank you, Paul. The commission appreciates your brevity. Karine Anderson Ponzer, how are you today? I'm sorry if I completely slaughtered your name just now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, sorry about that.
Here and see me now? Good.
Yes, we can see you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And thanks to the IRC for scheduling these public hearings on redistricting. My name's Karin Anderson Ponzer. You are pretty close. I'm the Director of Legal Services at Neighbors Link, whose mission is to make the whole community stronger by educating and empowering immigrants. We serve communities throughout the Hudson Valley. Neighbors Link is a member of NYIC's Mapping Our Future Coalition. Mapping Our Future is a statewide coalition of advocates dedicated to mobilizing grassroots to get involved in redistricting and advocate for a fair process and fair maps. A couple of other folks have spoken as members of the coalition. And we're all on the same page. Fair districts are the foundation of fair representation. We only have a shot at this once every 10 years, and we're going to live with those consequences for the next decade. So we have to work to get it right now. Neighbors Link has assisted thousands of immigrant New Yorkers to get on their feet and integrated into the communities of the region. As I said, we serve individuals throughout the Hudson Valley, from helping to find jobs where they will be paid well, to parent-child programs, ESL, civics instruction, as well as legal assistance with everything from deportation defense to naturalization. We're honored to support them as they build their futures here in New York. We know that immigrants are vital to our economy, contributing billions of dollars annually in combined federal, state, and local taxes. My written testimony has some numbers. I'll keep it succinct here. Immigrant New Yorkers have also been on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, disproportionately suffering illness, while at the same time they're doing the essential work that makes it possible for everybody else to stay home, and also caring for the sick and dying as first responders, nurses, and doctors. But despite these contributions and many, many more, immigrant New Yorkers suffer from marginalization, exclusion, and discrimination. Millions were excluded from federal COVID relief benefits, unemployment relief, and are at risk for eviction. And then for the past 4 years, they endured overbroad immigration enforcement and family separation under the prior administration, which exploited racist lies about immigrants and people of color for political gain. But a good redistricting process can help to ensure that the voices of immigrants and people of color are heard now, and that their concerns are addressed meaningfully. Well-drawn districts that keep our communities, the communities we serve in Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, Ulster, and Westchester counties to protect New York's immigrants and communities of color, allow challengers to have a fair shot at winning elections, and energize civic engagement. It will finally allow for our community's needs to be prioritized by our elected leaders, leading to better policy and budget outcomes. These public hearings are a promising start, but I urge the IRC to ensure that the entire redistricting process is public and transparent, including full accessibility for non-English speakers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terry Diggory, how are you?
I am well, David. Thank you. And thank you to the Commission for holding this series of public hearings and for your patience in listening to lots of people. My name is Terry Diggory. I'm co-coordinator of both the Saratoga Immigration Coalition with Maxine Lautenberg, who you heard from earlier, and the Albany Presbytery Immigration Network. These organizations offer support and advocacy for immigrant members of our community in New York's Capital District and the adjoining counties of Saratoga, Warren, and Washington. Where I live in Saratoga Springs, I see at firsthand the consequences of unfair districting that attempts to separate people according to their different voting preferences rather than their common economic and cultural interests. Many of our immigrant neighbors live in a rural area outside Saratoga Springs, which is in one congressional district, yet they depend on employment and social services in the city of Saratoga Springs, which is another district. Because of political differences, these two districts make very different provisions for immigrants' needs. And it's not just immigrants who are affected. Residents of the two areas, rural and urban, are encouraged by unfair districting to operate effectively in separate silos rather than working together to solve common problems that affect the entire region. Well-drawn districts that keep communities like mine together can protect New York's immigrants and communities of color, allow challengers to have a fair shot at winning elections, and energize civic engagement. These public hearings are surely a promising start, but I urge the IRC to consider the entire redistricting process to be a public one. At a minimum, this must include intentional outreach to communities who may currently feel disengaged from the electoral process, communication in multiple languages, targeting especially those languages known to be spoken by people living in a particular region, and partnership for outreach with community-based organizations that have the trust of members of marginalized communities. Again, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate you joining us. So commissioners, we are again running ahead of schedule. We have 2 people coming at 4:30. And Miranda, is that it after those 2 people?
Yes, that's all for today.
Okay, so I would ask the commission that, the commissioners that we pause for 10 minutes and wait for our remaining 2 people to join us. No objection? All right, well, I will see you in 10 minutes.
And
So,
Conway, we have Commissioner
oh,
Conway.
okay.
I think he just lost.
Okay.
We'll let him get on.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Okay. So any objection to our proceeding? Okay.
No.
Yeah, so Miranda, if we could start, please.
Yeah, 1 second.
Hi, Vanessa, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. So thank you to the Independent Redistricting Commission for organizing this series of public hearings on the upcoming redistricting cycle. My name is Vanessa Godello. I'm the Hudson Valley Manager of Member Engagement for the New York Immigration Coalition, an umbrella policy and advocacy organization that represents over 200 immigrant and refugee rights groups throughout New York and is the largest in the country of its kind. NYIC is a member of the Mapping Our Future Coalition. Mapping Our Future is a statewide coalition of advocates dedicated to mobilizing the grassroots to get involved in redistricting and advocating for a fair process and fair maps. Now, we believe that fair districts are the foundation for fair representation. The opportunity to draw fair districts only comes every 10 years, and we have no do-overs. If we don't get this right, our communities have to live with the consequences for the next decade. District maps that make it impossible for communities to elect their own members often mean a decade of having the needs of that community deprioritized. If candidates and elected officials know that they can get reelected while also ignoring certain communities, they may just do that. Our work on fair and humane immigration policies, affordable housing, police reform, and so much more is made harder because some incumbents feel untouchable. But a good redistricting process can remedy that. Well-drawn districts that keep communities of interest together can protect New York's immigrants and communities of color, allow challengers to have a fair shot at winning election, and energize civic engagement. These public hearings are a promising start, but I urge the IRC to consider the entire redistricting process to be a public one. At a minimum, this must include maintaining an up-to-date website of upcoming meetings and events, an archive of past meetings and events, meetings that are open to the public and announced with adequate advance notice, a commitment to partner with advocacy organizations on community events, and a commitment to engage with ethnic media across multiple platforms so the public is aware of IRC events and announcements. The unfortunate reality is that New York's district maps have been egregiously gerrymandered for decades. An obvious example of this in the Hudson Valley region is Senate District 46, which includes 5 different counties and stretches from Montgomery down to Ulster. To remedy this, the IRC must not use the current maps as a starting point. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but this is a good start to remedying some of the mistakes of the past, mapping a future that works for all New Yorkers. Thank you again to the IRC for holding this hearing, and thanks also to the many partners who are in this fight for fair maps and fair representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much. For
Patricia, how are you?
I am good. We ready to start?
Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Patricia Sibilia, and I'm president of the Albany County League of Women Voters. And I submit this testimony on behalf of our county league, the other league chapters in the Capital Region, as well as the region's urban league and the One Person, One Vote Coalition. We appreciate the opportunity the commission has offered to present this testimony. The commission's first task is to determine its objective. It should not be aiding in the election of an incumbent or a challenger to an incumbent, or assisting a political party in gaining a legislative majority. Instead, its objective must be to focus on the interest of the voters and attempt to draw districts that will empower them to elect those officials who will act in their interests. The commission is obligated to draw maps so as not to deny or abridge racial or language minority voting rights. The districts must be equal in population as much as possible, as well as contiguous and as compact as practicable. They may not favor particular candidates or political parties. The commission's central concern should be communities of interest. In other words, it should look at the interest of various voters and attempt to create districts allowing those voters with common interest to choose their representatives. This would enable them to join together and elect someone who will have their interest as a priority. If the commission does not adopt these principles as its objective, it will fail in its mission. Let's take the Capital District. We can identify 3 major cities within this district: Albany, which is in Albany County, Troy, which is in Rensselaer County, and Schenectady, which is in Schenectady County. Their connections are strong. For example, there is one public transportation system that serves all 3 cities, as well as the various towns within the district. In addition, one major airport serves the entire region. All 3 cities are centers of arts and culture, with each having major performance halls and well-attended museums. All 3 are on a river and have riverfronts, making the development of such properties a common interest. Significantly, all 3 are upstate urban centers, with those common issues to urban centers, such as the need for affordable housing, quality school systems, policing issues, and the maintenance of a vibrant downtown. All have diverse populations. Last week, the 3 cities joined together as plaintiffs in a lawsuit against a single entity based on the defendant's neglect of vacant property it owns in all of them. These are the types of concerns that should be the focus of the commission and its guiding factor in drawing districts. The success of the commission will be determined by whether it creates districts that give voters a real say in their government. We look forward to working with its members to achieve this goal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. So Miranda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's it in terms of people.
You are correct.
Okay, so commissioners, in the past, we've given several minutes for stragglers to join if they haven't been paying attention. Would there be any objection to waiting for 3 minutes?
Not at all.
Okay, right. So 3 minutes starting now.
David?
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm going to be signing off now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
You.
Bye-bye.
All right, commissioners, it's been 3 minutes. Miranda, have we had any additional people sign on?
No one else.
Okay.
Well,
Well, so on behalf of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission, I want to thank so much the people of the Mid-Hudson Valley, as well as the Capital Region, for joining us today. I know I thought that this was incredibly helpful. As a Westchester resident, I took great pride in a number of people from our region who came and and spoke before us today. So thank you all so much to everyone who joined us. Commissioners, I look to you. Does anyone else like to weigh in?
Thank you to everyone who showed up. It was very helpful.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much. So I hope that you will join us next on Thursday as we go to the Mohawk Valley and the North Country. Am I correct, Miranda? Is that, I believe that's the next hearing. Yes. All right, so Mohawk Valley and the North Country on Thursday. You're on deck, so hope to see you on Thursday. All right, well, thank you all so much. Thank you, commissioners. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.